Hello there, and welcome to the RetroVerse podcast, where we take a deep dive look into Star Citizen news and future updates. Let's begin. Alrighty guys, welcome to episode 1 of the RetroVerse podcast. My name is Retro and I'll be your host, and joined for me today I have Captain Casual, who is an avid fan of all things Star Citizen. But first, let's do a quick fortnightly roundup of the recent Star Citizen news. Alright, so for the Star Citizen monthly report for February, the recent ships of the RSI Polaris has an interior approaching the grey box review. There's two variants progressed through the pipeline, and we've also got 2 unannounced vehicles pass through their final level of detail, Zero Gate reviews. Yes, it is reviews. RSI Zeus is approaching the end of their grey box and hopefully for implementation possibly mid-year, and progressing now through to the roadmap roundup from the 6th of March 2024, implementing support for GPU upscaling, including DLSS, FSR, and in-house TSR solution. Updating Star Citizen volumetric cloud tech to improve overall visual quality, and also adding volumetric shadows and ground fog, which is going to help a lot of us in game with some of the volumetric clouds at the moment. And finally, subscriber benefits for the upcoming Stellar Fortuna theme. So the 2954 Temp Fate and Lux Favor tank cards, which is your little mugs. You got the Gemini C54 Luckbringer SMG and this Gemini LH86 Luckbringer pistol. And the vehicles for the month for the subscribers is the Cyclone MT and the Mercury Star Runner. Alrighty, so let's bring in Captain Casual, and you want to quickly do a brief introduction of yourself and what brought you to Star Citizen.
Oh man, so Star Citizen is, I've been playing for about 2 years now, 2.5 years. I started in a group called Rally Point, brought in by a group of other veterans that I was playing with, and I honestly, I'd known about it for quite some time throughout its development, but didn't really buy into it until one of my buddies who I served with brought me in and said, you should join and start and see what we've been doing, and I joined up with them, and I spent the next 2 weeks probably just poring over Reddit, YouTube, figuring out how the game worked, and I couldn't stop. And now 2.5 years later, we have an organization that we started, Solaris Dynamics, and we're gaining traction. We're getting more people, we have a community growing, and it's awesome. It's awesome to watch. It's awesome to have people like that to play with. It's awesome, to meet people like you. It's been a wild ride. It's been a blast.
100%. As soon as you start taking down that rabbit hole of Star Citizen, you see one video, and then about a week later you're looking in everything to the point where you're actually looking into the patch notes, and you're it's
Yep.
beyond the point of a game. You're active in the development, and as well you're oh, this is a ship, or you can pretty much do different things in the verse if someone's new to Star Citizen listening to podcasts. So Star Citizen is a space massive multiplayer adventure game where you can pretty much do whatever you wish. You want to do salvaging on a ship, you can do mining, you can be a bounty hunter, you can go a cargo trader. If you want to do some long ass truck hauling in a big massive cargo ship, you can do that. If you want to just go out and go kill a bunch of people, you can do that as well.
You could be a pirate. You could be
a pirate.
Yeah.
There's so many different things you can do, and as well, it's a lot. It's a lot of people can come and go. It's not a lot of people find Star Citizen is a game that oh no, I have to constantly. It's a game that you can. I went out for 1 year and I completely for work and stuff, and I wasn't able to play, but I could still remain in the community. I could still keep up the updates, and even if I wasn't playing, I was able to keep up and go, okay, this is what's new. Or it's good with that. It's I go away and come back, and in the recent past, I've seen this game from 2019, and I've seen it progress, and I've noticed even in the past 3 years, this game has been a massive push in development. They've actually realized all right, we need to actually think forward and go, yep, we need to actually focus now. It's like we've gone through the phases, we've got the funding, and now we actually need to be serious of what like the money we've got right now and how we act it. And I feel like they've really taken a big step up towards that. So were you a avid space fan, space nerd fan bringing to Star Citizen? Is that kind of what brought you?
Yeah. I've been, and I'm like all sci-fi, Battlestar Galactica, The Expanse, Star Trek when I was younger, Stargate SG-1. Not exactly a space, well, I guess it kind of is, but you know, all of those shows I used to love. There wasn't ever, I mean, you get to the point where that content would run out though, right? Like, and then you'd find yourself watching, oh, I forgot even to say Star Wars, right? You know, you watch these movies and these shows just over and over and over again throughout our life, and now there's actually a game where, you know, they're bringing, you can see the pop culture influences in it, and you can see what they're doing with the game, and you're literally living like a childhood dream.
Exactly. And for myself, like hence my name, my retro. Like I grew up, like a lot of kids when they grew up, they were playing PS3s, they were playing the brand new consoles. Now I was stuck playing like a Sega Mega Drive or Sega Genesis, or I was playing PS2 pretty much up until in high school until I got given a PS4. And that jump from like the graphics from a PS2 to a PS4, I was like, this is insane. I remember playing my first PS4 game and I sat for 20 minutes after the cutscene because I thought the cutscene was still going. And I'm like, oh, because you know, in the PS2, the cutscenes are like really high quality, and you come out and you're like, I sat and I'm like, the character hasn't moved. Why has he not moved? I'm like, I'm sitting here, and I'm like, oh no, I have to actually move the controller, and that's as well. Like I have an appreciation just for like the graphics in games, the graphic development, because I really like I still enjoy the retro games. Like one of my favorite go-to is Gauntlet.
Gauntlet
It's
Legends.
like one of yeah, and it's just like that, and then there's so like as well playing on the PS2, Lego Star Wars was such a big game for me like growing up because it's like a game that like not a person that doesn't too big into gaming can just hop in and play. And it's like as well like I've just been kind of like coming into Star Citizen, like I'm a big space nerd fan, like a massive Star Wars fan to the point where I do costuming myself, so I do like I built my own Mandalorian armor and everything, so I've gone to conventions and all that, so like being able to kind of like live that kind of Star Wars kind of thing in Star Citizen is like blows my mind. Like my childhood self would have lost it if I could say I could load in without having to sit in loading screens, load in, fly to a space station, log out, and come back and can pretty much explore around the verse. And for me, that's like why I was like so drawn to this game, and I can keep coming back to it. It's like I don't want to put hate on Starfield. I enjoyed the game, but the game had a lot of it was difficult for some players because people were trying to relate it to Star Citizen when they're two separate games. Like I played the Fallout series, and I'm like, yes, you have to understand that's a big game company. They're using resources from like previous, and people trying to compare it to Star Citizen, which has had a lot more fun, like so much of the funding. They've built their own Star engine for it. It's a big jump to try and say, yeah, this is a single player game. Like I understand there's a little bit more storyline, a little bit more I direct you on a path compared to Star Citizen, where Star Citizen is just like you choose what you want to do, and if you want to be a solo player, you can do that. But there's orgs like your org that me and yourself are in, where you can go in with a bunch of other players, and it keeps that kind of player base coming back without having to have like a storyline. And as well, it's a lot cooler playing with your mates and all that. Leading to the next question. So, how do you feel about the current state of the game right now?
You know, I think it's an interesting comment. You were talking about taking a break for a year and coming back and just watching as new things come in. I think the state of the game is on the precipice of what's about to come, and it has been, I'm sure, for you know, people say that it's been the haters will always be there saying that it's been promised and it's never been there, but it's only a scam until it's actually not. You know, like once they actually fulfill that promise. Squadron 42, I think, is going to be the huge watershed moment. Squadron 42 is where they have all their narrative, they have all the background, all the story, and that's the single player game for people that don't know. And then in the persistent universe, which is the online multiplayer version of it, is we're waiting on server meshing, dynamic server meshing specifically. So I think those two are going to be the big keys to the future of the game. You have Squadron 42 bringing in the narrative, and then server meshing and dynamic server meshing, allowing that narrative to be propagated into huge systems, battles, like all sorts of things. I mean, capital ships are kind of played with right now, but when server meshing is in, like we're going, and hopefully when the narrative comes in, wouldn't it be awesome to watch a Vandal King ship come in?
Oh, 100%.
On a 1,000-person server, and now we're all going up against the King ship, Like there's so much potential, and that's why there's people like us that are just, we're all in on it, because we see the potential, we see where this game is going, and right now it's going through its growing pains, and it always, but that's the funny thing is, right, even in its growing pains, it's still an awesome game. Right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I think you take a break now, you come back in a year, you'd be blown away. The amount of content.
Yeah, 100%. And as well, like looking back, I'm gonna say I went through the whole 318 and I saw the whole debacle, and it honestly, people, I let
PTSD from 318.
Yeah, because a lot of people I knew a couple of mates that were avid Star Citizen fans, and they've left it and they've not come back, and they still think the game's in that state. And it takes me so long to try and give them the understanding. It's like, no, this is like they've learned from that mistake, and with that things they don't want to push up Pyro, because they could push up Pyro like really really quickly, but then it could be for players and it could just be screwed up. Like server mission won't be implemented, but Pyro is, and it could all just mess up the whole service. And it's a very very fragile process what they're putting through right now. And looking through, like going back through like Star Citizen all throughout the years, and it's like you see it from where it's progressed and all the way through in the past year. It's just such a massive development, and I think,
and that's sorry, you go. I was gonna say something.
Yeah, it was just like pretty much just saying like big shout out to Beyond the Verse with Solus and Space Tomato Gaming, because I watched their podcast myself, and going from them and their their kind of opinions on it is like they have to have server meshing implemented before they can push up the other stuff. They were like saying that it has to be perfected, because the server meshing works hand in hand with Pyro, and they understand that. I think the community's starting to get more of an understanding of like, okay, we can't just we want this now, and I understand that might happen with 323 with yes, all this new UI. It's a lot of content creators say the same thing. It's like, yes, they push out a new update, and it's like a chicken on a bone, and then the player base will just eat up the chicken, and then they're like, all right, where's that's cool, but where's the next bit? And it's like,
yep.
People don't have the understanding like this is a brand new UI, the brand new star map, which I'm 100% happy for. I don't have to click like 20 times to set a route to someone. And it's just, I think the new UI, and it's just like the EVA, everything that's happening will just bring a fresh start to Star Citizen. And a lot of I might see as well, it might bring new players in, because as well, I feel like when the Squadron 42, like you said, when we release, it's a lot of people will think, oh yeah, that's just a game, and then they'll go, oh wait, there's a persistent universe that I can go do this with all my friends, and it's gonna be a massive this game is insane. Because it's like, I understand if people have to pay extra for Squadron 42, but that's completely understanding. But if Star Citizen, way back in the day, if you had to pay for Arena Commander and all that, you'll be like, no, that's too stingy. It's good how it's implemented the persistent universe, Arena Commander, and Star Marine. And then they've also got on the side Squadron 42, which is that kind of single player push. Let's say your mate's not in the verse, you don't really feel a bit bored sitting around, because I understand some people will get bored very quickly in the verse, because oh, it's just game's gonna wipe. And I understand people thinking, oh yeah, the game's gonna wipe and it's no point. I see it as a lot of players come from Escape from Tarkov and all that, and the game wipes, resets it, and people can come in the new one. A lot of people in Star Citizen don't see it in that kind of sense. They just think, oh yeah, they're just going to wipe all my progress, and it's no point me playing because it's all my progress going to be wiped. For me, every time there's a wipe, I'm like, great, there's a fresh start. I can now do a new game loop. I was doing salvaging the last wipe. I'm going to try mining this one and see how much profit. I might go back to salvaging, but it gets that on a different. It pushes you in a different direction that you were before. And I think that's why as well, like when you're saying about the massive player base and all these capital ships, and people like saying, yeah, I'm not like you can't solo those like those massive capital ships. It's not possible. And I think as well, it's when orgs are gonna really step up. Where it's like, yeah, one player might have the massive capital ship, but in return, you would have all your org mates sitting in the engineering bay. You would have pilots. You would have moving. It would be like a working ship. And I think the engineering gameplay will need to be like once they add the capital ships, the engineering gameplay will definitely need to be the next in the pipeline because yes, you can have these capital ships, and then they have all these wear and tear and like fires and like yes, but they need to have that engineering gameplay just to like back. Like I don't really want to control the mess of our ships. I'm happy to sit back in the engineering bay and put out fires or direct power or fix the engines or as well like you can be like ATC if you have ships within it you need to launch ships out like what we did the other night when we were launching Furies out.
Yeah.
It's we could have that in a capital ship. You can launch Furies or you can launch Gladiuses out and you can have someone saying yep go 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 while having like security outside and it's all like different more what's it called career paths you can progress into. But yeah, I think they just need to be very careful in the way they push stuff out. And yeah, pretty much the next one I was going to lead into is master modes. What's your are you yay or nay towards master modes?
So two things. One, let me talk on your last point real quick.
Mm-hmm.
These think about. I mean, you got to think about this as the depth of the game that is out there and the amount of content that a new player is going to have to understand. Even the players that have been playing a while or even taking a break and come back, right? They're releasing content slowly and giving us the ability to learn this content as it releases and become masters at it so that we can train the new people, right? So that we can be there. And that's one of the benefits of this community, I think, is and why honestly the game was great, but it was the community that kept me. It was the community
100%.
of people because they're all everybody you go into global chat, you do that in World of Warcraft and you would get some really, fun chats, but it would never be as helpful as it is in Star Citizen or caring. I've had people send me 12 million before in game. Yeah, go try out some new ships, like it's a beautiful thing. So now to master modes. I think it's a push in the right direction and on the same vein of what we were just talking about, right? Is new people need to come into the game. PvP is a very challenging space. And I think what they're doing with making ships be role-based is in the right direction. I think that people that are upset about it, it's because they want a skill ceiling high enough so that they can stand out. I think Master Mode still maintains some of that skill ceiling, but it also lowers the skill floor so that more people can get into the space. So, I think PvP is one of the best, like especially ship combat, right? Even ground combat, but ship combat is just a thrill. And to be able to, I mean, just as like we were talking, sci-fi fans, to be able to get into your own ship and pilot it into a combat thing. Like the other night, we jumped into JT with, I think it was eight of us all in one jump together, and just watching the crew come in and just knowing, oh, whoever's on the end of this is gonna get toasted, it's something that I think we need to cultivate more in the community. And there's a lot of content creators that that have that same mentality. Some of them don't like master modes, but they do say that they want to get more people into the space, right? Into the PvP arena. How are you going to do that if you don't make it a little more accessible? So,
100%. So, like as well myself, like with the ship to ship, like the ship role combat, I feel like it's being pushed in a way that the older players that are used to the ship combat, I don't get like, oh yeah, this is a new stuff. We have to try and learn it, and I think they're not happy because they've trained and they know how to work this like system. They know how to work this. Well, I'm gonna say aircraft ships in this way that they know how they perform. They know how each perform, and then now they don't have a new push to a new like this is how their roles are equating to. Like my ship might not perform as they used to, and then they try and go in that combat situation. And they're like, oh crap, I'm not used to this, and it's like it gives them a kind of like it gives it kind of like a new fresh slate for like the new players and the older players to go, yep, this is what we actually have to then relearn. And it gives it like the players that have been playing for so many years may get angry because like, oh no, this is not my ship. I didn't pledge for this ship to be like this. And it's like, okay, well, it was in the return. It's you and you put that pledge towards that ship. You can exchange it. You can upgrade it. You can melt it. You can do all these things if you want to change the ship around. But I feel like the new players that have that kind of they feel pressured to go out and go buy ships in the pledge store. Where a lot of the times I have new players coming to me and say, "Hey, can I check out this game? I'm not too sure how I get into it." I say, "Well, you buy a package, a ship package. You don't have to go out and go buy the most expensive one." Like myself, I have a RSI Galaxy and a Vulture, and that's all I have in my ships in my pledge. That's the only two I have because the Galaxy gives me a Carrack which I can just mess around with because I love the Carrack, and the Vulture is like my go every while I can go out salvaging. And in game I have like a Reclaimer. I have all these different ships that I've got from in game, from earning in game, and I've really expressed it out to new players saying you don't need to go out. People say this game's super expensive. There's $1,000 ships. I'm like, yes, I understand that, but those are for players with disposable incomes. And recently with the IGN post about that really expensive ship package, I think it was like 45,000, and they're like saying this is this much, and it's like people are like, oh, that's a whole car, and I'm like, they need to understand.
From my understanding, that was requested by people at the top,
so,
like that had their packages up there already, and they're like, we want to get even more. So
exactly, I was like looking at him like, yeah, I understand, like it's a lot of money, but I wanted to dive further, and I looked into it to the point where I managed to get in contact with one of the guys who went to CitizenCon, who are one of those players, and he said, yeah, all of us, walked up to some dev at CitizenCon, and he said, hey, we want to have this package just designed for us. Is this able to happen? And then a couple weeks later, they're like, yeah, we can do that for you, because they have that amount of money. I'm like, myself, I don't have that amount of money.
Neither do I.
But like, I understand, like, if they request it, but then IGN have like really pushed it in the wrong direction, and they're like saying, oh, this is like putting out to all players. Like, no, I think you have to be in, I don't know what level in the Chairman's Club to even unlock that kind of package. And like most players as well, they were like suggesting like, hey, I have the extra money to go out and go pledge. I'm like, I can help you if you want to pledge a ship, but I would recommend going out, and it's a little bit more accomplishment for yourself if you go out and go get this ship in the verse, and you've grinded for that. You go get the ship in this verse, and I feel like the wipes have really improved in a way that's like the wipe. Yep, you might have like a character wipe. You have to reset your location, and some of your mining jobs that you had may get wiped. But since the last one, still had my Reclaimer, which I had from ages ago. It keeps popping up in there. By the way, for people,
ships. Yeah.
And by the way, the players that don't know the Reclaimer, it's the massive salvaging ship that is a pain to try and land. But it is good. I've pulled that up to Jumptown, and I've just landed it on top of a bunch of players that were trying to do some illegal stuff. So the Reclaimer is good if you wanna like just land on top of people or just ram your ship into them. That's what I like to do. That is well, like I'm a massive Star Wars fan, so every time I see the Reclaimer, I just think it's the Sandcrawler with a bunch of Jawas sitting in the inside salvaging parts and stuff. And I knew there were some players that were unhappy about the claw mechanics weren't getting implemented, and I'm like, hey, the claw's working. That's the main thing. I remember we sat there for the longest time. The Reclaimer had no salvaging thing. It was just this massive shit we had in the verse that we couldn't do anything. The claw didn't work. There's no salvage beams. There's no nothing. It was just, we could just see a grinding gears at the back of the ship saying, yeah, this is grind components. We don't know what ones. And
yep.
But yeah, moving on. So yeah, master modes, I feel they needed, if it gets put out right, people just need to understand that, like, yes, this is a change, and it's like, I watched the most recent Inside Star Citizen. I'm not too sure if you've watched it recently. It's about the FPS and how the kind of FPS move, like the gun mechanics of the game, are kind of getting a little bit more of an update and more of a realistic sense, to the point where the scopes will kind of be a little bit more accurate. I say a little bit more accurate. They're not, like, myself being in that kind of background field, I know how scopes are supposed to work. I'm pretty sure you know how scopes work. And it's like the recent scopes, yes, you can still, the scopes are a bit more dynamic, but your spatial awareness is still a bit iffy because it's like when you're scoped in, the whole everything else is still zoomed in. And myself, you shoot both eyes open, you always have that other eye just for that situational awareness. And it's like that I understand they're like they still want to be realistic, but if they want that full complete realism, they have to push it out that far. But I realize is like with all the other different kind of mechanics, like the adding wear and tear on the weapon, so a lot of people have to then start cleaning the weapons. And I'm like, I already bloody clean my weapon in real life. I have to clean my weapon in a game. But as well, it gets to the point where people have to understand that it's a space simulation game. It's not an arcade shooter. And I know that may deter a couple players from the persistent universe, but that may push them then to Arena Command, or they may push them to another, like, let's say Star Marine and or like maybe Squadron 42, where it's not so heavy on the simulation. But myself, I'm like big into simulation, like Microsoft Flight Sim, DCS, all those really heavy simulation games that I understand. Like DCS, you have to learn the actual how to fly the plane to actually play it in game. You read the manuals and everything, and people get a bit iffy, like, oh no, that's too hard. But some people want to do that because it's like it's just it's part of the game. And leading on to the next thing, so what's happening in 323? So we've got the new EVA, we've got the new UI, but we've also got the adding of the distribution centers. What's your opinion for yourself and also for your like with your org and planning org nights and stuff? How is it kind of leading on for you?
So, I mean, any opportunity for us to have a like an event or something that we can do in game makes it a lot easier on us as org leaders, because I mean that's one of the benefits of an org right now, right? Is that we come up with content that we do. I mean, we come up with random stuff. Like last night, what did we do? We filled this C2 filled with Furies and went and did ERTs with a bunch of Furies. So like having that in game and having those things in game give us, hey, let's do Distribution Center, or hey, let's go do Jump Town, or hey, let's go do Xenothreat, and we have a preconceived idea that we're able to go and kind of like leverage around it and structure our nights or our org nights around it so that we can have we can maximize the fun. I mean, that's really what the whole purpose of at least our org is to have a community, and two, to just make sure that everybody is having a good time. And so having those things like a distribution center where you can land, you can go into, there's different missions there. You'll have 5 people doing 5 different missions. The original concept at SitCon, at least what I remember, is that they were talking about how you would get like a mission there, you would go, and it was the raids they were talking about. So when this raid type content starts coming in, it's gonna be, I mean, they already do, right? Siege of Orison is kind of a raid.
Exactly.
Right? So that being in a distribution and having more sieges out for us to be able to do is just gonna be awesome, dude. Like to be able to consistently have something that we want to do with higher end players, and then PvP and PvE all in one location. It's gonna be fun. I'm
100%. And with the recent like ISCs, I think a couple of ones back, they're talking about distribution centers, and it kind of pushes it that there's different like kind of areas you can go into. You can be your neutral lawful, you could be your aggressive lawful, you could be your non-aggressive. Then you got your like all those different paths, and I feel like it will branch out to a lot more players that if they was just for cargo. And myself, I don't mind. I love doing cargo. I was the one that doing all the trade routes, and I was doing all that kind of stuff. And a lot of that once I'm like, yeah, that's so cool to actually have cargo missions instead of that me trying to risk all my money myself doing cargo running to and from. But there's someone think, hey, move that, because back before then all we had was the box delivery missions, which yes, they're fun, but if you're trying to do like 20 at a time and you're like, oh crap, what one's this box? I'm like, that box is over there, and the next minute you're flying and the box is actually, you've left the door open, the box is out in space, and you're like, and the marker's like sitting 1 million kilometers away, and you're like, crap. So I feel like cargo missions will be a lot more, like, I think they've kind of planned it in a way like they added all the tractor beams and all that, and kind of a good kind of pipeline to where distribution centers now here, and then further down the track, they've got like, I think they've been progressed to like distribution centers within this space stations, and to the point where, because you have the whole the massive ones, which I feel like a lot of people like saying, yes, this is really cool, but I feel like there is a downside to that as well because the whole it could just whole disrupt the whole kind of the cargo like what's it called economy kind of in a way. It's like yes, they'll move like massive amounts of all this cargo to a different location. That will then screw up because then all the cargo will be in that location for smaller people to move. So I think distribution centers will be a good kind of like starting point, just like saying this is what cargo is gonna hopefully be, and it kind of gives that players a little bit of a taste with them. But I know players probably go, yeah, that's cool. Where's the next bit? Where's the next bit? But I feel like yeah, distribution centers is gonna be has to be balanced in a way that the players that are doing the cargo as well, they put out the whole reputation stuff and like the players that before when you had a crime stat, yeah, let's say I had a crime stat, I go do this thing and I go back to the same location after I have that crime stat wiped, they're like, oh yeah, I've never met this person before. Yeah, yeah, come in, like have no issues. But I feel like with the distribution centers and reputation, they don't go like, hey, no, you tried to attack us last time. We're not going to let you anywhere near us. And I feel like they really put out in the distribution. I'm just going to say distribution centers. It keeps such a long word.
Yep.
They're pretty much they have to shape in a way that those there might be ones that are welcome for players like new players that want to go, yeah, this is our distribution center, you can go look around. There's some of the ones that are a little bit more secure that only certain jobs can go there and you can't just freely walk into it. And I think it has to be as well like people like saying, oh, it's just going to be a hive for trolls and stuff, and I'm like, well, no, because it's every time there's someone that gets alerted to it, let's say they have a bad rep and they try to go to that base, it's going to get flagged, and let's say a bounty hunter will come through and he'll then and that's what I'm hoping for in the hopefully towards next year, the year after that. I hope of the bounty hunting mechanics where right now you kill them or you unalive them and then you get the reward. But then I think with a lot of like with myself with the Galaxy, there's got the bounty hunter pods. A lot of other ships got the bounty hunter pods where you actually capture them, put them in the pods. Yep. If you don't know, Captain's putting his hand up right now. So, yeah, so you put them in the pods, you then you do the whole like myself. I'm a massive Mandalorian fan. I get to do that if I can put them on a pod, put them on my ship, and take them and this be a bounty hunter and stuff. It'll be like the coolest thing because it's like it opens up a new game loop a little bit further than just bounty hunting. Where yeah, it'll be like the bounty hunting right now. You just fly to an area, shoot the person, you get the reward, and you don't really have that much unless you're a salvager. You can go scrape their ship if you want to try and whole scrape and then munch the ship after. But like at the moment, the bounty hunters, it's a really, if you want a really, really quick way, you just go blow up the ship and leave. But I feel like I'm wondering the way that if bounty hunting is going to go push, like if you kill the player, is a lesser reward than if you actually soft death them, come in, arrest them, put them on the pod, or once you let the ship, you see them floating in space, put them in the pod. I think the Hawk is going to be a very, very good ship in the way that you can capture them for that temporary, take them back to another space station, or take them out to your other ship to then load them into an actual bounty hunting pod. So yeah, what's your opinions on bounty hunting?
So, what you're talking about, and I don't know exactly the details on it, but it's called Bounty Hunting 2.0, and it speaks to what they've been saying consistently at SitCon all the way up to now, is that the way that you see the game today is it's all changing. Like there is even bed logging. They came out and there was a dev discussion about bed logging, and the way that we bed log is going to change, and it's going to change the way the game is played. And I think that's why when I say, Squadron 42 and all these things coming out first are going to be that watershed moment, is because all the stuff that you're doing in the Squadron 42, they're going to bring all of that in, and they don't want to release it right now, right? Because they're going to give it away. So, they're giving you this glimpse into the universe of what they're building without trying to give away everything that they're doing, because they're waiting for that drop, because they know, and I think we know that it's all going to change, and it's going to be a weird, different, uncomfortable, probably in some senses, world that, but I think it's going to be fun the whole way through. I think bounty hunting, like you said, going and grabbing bounties and putting them on ice and taking them back. I wonder how that's going to be though, right? Because if you knock someone down, like in-cap them, and they say, I don't want to do this, and they try and backspace out, is the body still going to be worth you know what I mean? Or do you have to have
Exactly.
them live, or
And
you
what
know?
is that like? Does that player then just go when they load back in? Are they in this bounty hunting capsule and you're like they load in and they're just sitting here, or they go as soon as they is there a mechanic in a way that as soon as they're arrested, because you know how like we sometimes get arrested if we go pull in, it's like you're getting arrested or you're trespassing, you'll
Yeah,
be like they kind of if they do that kind of mechanic and it's like there's like in that kind of it'll be you're prosecuted, you get there's like I don't know if it jumps to like you put it in a pod and then it's that kind of like they hold down backspace, they respawn back at they try and leave the game, they come back and they're at in the prison. And I feel like I don't know if players as well in the Stanton I don't know be very pushed towards still doing crime and stuff because I feel like a small pirate player base will, but I think the general player that used to do I don't care about a crime stack because when I go to prison my rep won't be affected. I feel like with the new rep and stuff, it's going to get very heavily affected to the point where people like maybe not push towards unless they're in pyro. But with Pyro as well, there's that reputation with gangs, and it's like the same kind
yep,
of thing with organizations. But in Pyro, there's going to be a little bit more on the gang. It's like, hey, I won't let you land at this station because you're mates with this person, and it's good in a way, but it's also bad in a way because it's like Pyro is very limited on the fuel and stuff. And I think the staff error like you have will be a very very handy tool because at the moment it's like it's handy for if you're really small ships, but in like it's a very a ship the ship really needs a big update because the interior amount of times I walk into a Starfarer and I end up on the other side of the ship and I don't even know where I am and I'm like I'm lost I'm like I'm like so lost and
were you watching last night when we tried to refuel the 890
yep I was watching.
and I got sucked into the 890 and my Starfarer, and then I did not know how to get to the bed. We were going to try and bed log to see if it would
Mm-hmm.
despawn the ship out of his 890. Yeah, it was a nightmare, but it was fun. We take the server. I need to actually get that issue canceled.
So yeah, so with these old ships that are like I say old ships, the older ships that were put out in the early release of the game, let's say the Starfarer, you also got like they said how 600i rework. What are you thinking, your thoughts about people they're going actually doing those reworks and hopefully pushing out the older ships? When I say the Banu Merchantman, I know that it's not ready for the game yet, but there's been players waiting so long with this, and it's like, but they're if I like
I'm
said
one.
it right at the start of the episode, I said how they've already got how many two unannounced vehicles pass through their levels, which they put out that little tease of all the little screenshots of the ships coming. But it's like, yes, we're getting new ships, but on the other side, I understand it's a way they earn funding for the game, but the players they've already been sitting here waiting for their Banu Merchantman. They're like, hey, you've just announced all these ships, and I feel like because what's coming up? Is it Invictus coming up soon?
Yep. Well, it's
So
got
you got Invictus.
Stella Fortuna first, and then Invictus. Yeah.
So you got Invictus coming out. So I'm pretty sure they'll announce another ship there. Or they're going to be a massive thing. Like, hey, this is like there's another variant for something, and I think a lot of ones like even like I love still doing the medevac gameplay. So like the Apollo medvac, I'm like I really just want that shit because they need that kind of branch between the two, and it's the same kind of boat with people with the Prospector and the Mole and the Orion. It's like we've got those three, but there's nothing in between the Mole and the Orion. They've got a massive ship and they've got the Mole. There's nothing in between, and that's when they like, oh yep, this is the RSI Astra, and I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but I'm like, there should be as well the older ships in the like the Apollo Medvac, which has it pretty much has all of the. I'm just like it's the modeling. They've got all that ready to go. They just need to like I think they need to put more like they have the ship teams. They need to have like less of a focus towards the new ships because yes, still release new ships, but not a massive kind of bulk to the point where like, hey, what about these old ships that we've got still? There've been players been waiting. Like I'm not fussed with my RSI Galaxy. I'm like I understand with the whole that's probably going to come with base building and stuff because it's one of those ships that is kind of it's a multi-role ship, but it's one of the main focuses is with base building for the RSI Galaxy. And I'm not fussed. I'm like I like the Galaxy. I like all like the videos they put out of it, but I'm happy with the character at the moment. There's no issues with me. But the players that are like sitting here, like yourself with the Banu Merchantman, I'm like, what about them? So yeah, what's your opinion?
So I think a few things. One, I think the way that they talked about master modes and tuning master modes, and why they will do an initial release, but they won't like spend too much time on tuning master modes, because when it releases fully, it's gonna be a different game, right? So if they're spending time on these ships that they want to, I mean, even some of the older ones, right, that they want to
Mm.
change the way that gameplay loop is going to be in the future, spending time on fixing it for the interim is not really, it doesn't seem cost effective. Now they could be a lot more better communicative about that, right? And like say this is the
Mm.
reason why we're not doing it. But yeah, man, I think that's the other thing is you've probably heard about this, but during I don't know the year, but they had an exodus of devs, especially on the Banu Merchantman team, and there was a whole group of senior developers that left, and from that they learned, and they even spoke to it at CitizenCon about how they were training their newer people on the beginning ships, the ones they've been releasing, like the Cutter series, being one specifically, right? All of those ships are
Mm-hmm.
coming out at full, nearly almost gold pass level when they release, and it's because they've had the newer dev teams working on them. Now they're going to move those up to bigger ships because those require more intensive resources. I mean, you heard him talk about the Idris and about how there was more than, nearly the entire company had hands on that Idris
Mm.
before it was able to be released. And even now they're still doing work on it, and it's because they refine it, they get it down because they want it to release properly. And I mean, arguably the Idris is an entire, like FPS map on most FPS games right
Oh,
now.
pretty much. It's massive. It's like a whole. It's a capital ship. It's got everything you ever want, and I feel like a lot of like I even if players are not got a ship, I feel like when the whole Idris event was on, myself, I'm on Australian servers, so I don't know if it was the same thing in the US servers. We had some guy in global chat say, "Hey, I got the Idris. I'm letting it new Babbage outside near the Commons. Who wants to come check it out?" I'm like leaving it here. I'm not gonna go be a pain and take off while people are looking around. I'm like landing it, and it's the typical Australians like, "Yeah, mate, I'm coming down. No worries." And there's some guy coming down. He goes, "Hey, do you need like as well? Like, do you need like anyone just like flying around with like a let's say a Scorpius or like security just to make sure some no person just tries to mess it up for everyone." And we literally were just like walking around. We all had like little tours around it. So we're like, I had a like, I went in. I'm like seeing this like this is insane within tour. And when it was like we all finished, he took off, and I as well. It's a bit iffy with the takeoff because we were up 500 feet in the air. Next minute, I'm like in the ground. I'm like, oh no, I'm falling. Oh no, I'm falling. So there is some downside, but it really like it's so funny with the Australian servers. It's just like I heard some things in the US servers that some guys were like some orgs. I don't want to name shame orgs, but what I think a couple orgs were saying that yeah, there's some orgs that just got the Idris and they just keep jumping from jump point to jump point. They're getting other org members that are not in the party just attacking them, just to try and like or like just trying to keep they've just quantum out to some blank space where there's no one can find them, and they're just inviting their org there just to go privately. I'm like, yes, but in the return, it's like it's a community in the end. It's like we want to help everyone out, and I think that's the kind of big jump towards different servers and the different kind of communities within Star Citizen as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I didn't get the opportunity to do it. I think there was a lot of us on the US server side that didn't get that opportunity. But personally, one, I can watch a YouTube video and watch a walkthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Two, um, it's not really fully released yet, right? And so again, I'm not crying.
Exactly.
We'll get there, and
Well, you
I'll,
got the yeah.
we'll
You got the
we'll
thing.
take our org to bear, and we'll take one over.
Like yeah, and as well, it's so funny. Like that next Inside Star Citizen was a walkthrough of the Idris because it's like I
Yep.
think they understood. They're like, oh crap, some players are just being selfish and taking it for themselves, and the whole community still wanted to walk through. And that Inside Star Citizen was amazing because they did like a whole the exterior view, then they did that whole hollowed inside view, which as well. You can see the new sides of the ship than just walking around and getting lost. And the way when I was walking around, I got a very lot of was it like vibes, like kind of like the same Hammerhead kind of style vibes. It's that kind of same style where it's like that kind of corridors, there's mess halls and all that. I know there's a shooting range, there's all these different stuff. And one of my favorite ones, I was definitely, if I was when they were showing it, was the anti like the gravity generator and stuff.
Yep.
How it's like an actual wall that actually splits out from the side, and then you walk in, you can actually look around, and it closes on itself. And I feel like they've really like try to push that in that sci-fi. And I remember watching the Inside Star Citizen about it, and he's like saying how he's taken inspiration from all these things and like all the old sci-fi movies and stuff. And I like how that kind of they relate to the players a little bit, and the players can relate to then some guy just yapping on about how he did this design for this like he just like yapping on saying, yep, I did this on this program. And there's some guy saying, yeah, I got inspiration from this from Star Wars, like the kind of corridors from Star Wars, and I got this from, let's say, from another sci-fi show, but very 80s-esque, he was like saying. And it's like kind of like something that players can relate. I'm only like 21, but I have appreciation for, like, I love 80s movies. And just recently, like, I just, with the new Helldivers, and I'm branching off from Star Citizen, but with Helldivers 2 coming out, it just made me want to watch Starship Troopers over and over again, because
Yep.
that I love that movie so much. And when I heard about Helldivers, I remember the first one, and I'm not too fan of top down kind of games. And when I saw this, I'm like, this is Starship Troopers. And I saw like that little introductory video, and I'm like, this is like Starship Troopers. I'm like, I want it. I don't care. I want it right now. And I know that the Starship Troopers game, Extermination, I think it was Extermination, a lot of players weren't really drawn to it because it was a bit.
I played it. I played it.
It's iffy.
Yeah, it was not Helldivers.
Yeah, it's like very iffy, and it's like I felt as well playing Helldivers, the bugs I can relate to Starship Troopers, but myself, I can relate Helldivers 2 to more of the Warhammer-esque, with the automatons and all the other ones. It's very Warhammer in the way that I was like, this is like an orc thing or like a space marine thing. And myself, like, I know Warhammer and stuff. I'm like, this is a lot more pushing towards Warhammer side, but still keeping that sci-fi genre with like the hellpods dropping down, and it still blows my mind every time you see your ship coming out of atmosphere.
Wait until, well, I mean, I don't know if this is actually going to happen. I'm just dreaming here. But imagine if they did even a portion of that in Star Citizen with the Vandal threat, and we're,
Who knows?
doing whole ass battles like that. That, oh man.
Well,
But yeah.
who knows? Because they could, honestly, because when they were doing that that video that came out, it's like all these shots were filmed in one continuous shot in Star Citizen.
Yep.
And when they showed the animals and stuff, and I was like, there's like there's like cows, there's whales. Like, I knew there were space whales, but I'm like able to see them and like saying the kind of like the push towards it. And I had a couple people send me screenshots from the Pyro like playtester when they're at CitizenCon, and them showing me, I was like, this is like Tatooine from Star Wars, because it's like the whole like landing at the moment, you have the landing pads, but these ones on, I don't know what Pyro planet, but they've actually got it in like on underneath the ground where they actually land below the ground level. And it's like, this is so like very Star Wars kind of esque, and it's gonna be like, I know a lot of Star Wars people, they're like, wait, they've never heard of Star Citizen. I introduced them and I kind of explain it to them, and I have to really push the point across that people think it's they don't understand how the game, they're like, oh no, it's a scam, it's unplayable. And it's all those people that comment on like, oh no, I know that game, yeah, that was a scam, they're just trying to get people's money. And I'm like, it's not even a playable game. I'm like, have you played it? No. So how can you comment on a game that you've never played, but you say it's a scam? I'm like, I literally was playing it just before with a bunch of other people, but you're saying this game's a scam? And I was like, all right, don't come at me for that. But as well, on the whole, going back a little bit on the distribution center with the whole, because I used to be a little bit on like the medvac kind of player with my Cuddy Red, and I was like, those missions was a hit and miss, because sometimes you would be an actual player saying, yeah, I need medical help, and it'd be the coolest thing, landing down with your emergency lights on, coming and saving the player and escorting them out. Then you have the ones for trolls that you just want to just come down and they just want to not even pirate you, they just were just blowing you up for no reason. And I feel like with the whole reputation coming into play, that maybe the med gameplay might get an improvement to a way that it'll be like, hey, this player's requesting this medevac, but they have a reputation of being like they're not like consistently doing the med, like they're continually like killing players when they get to the medevac. So it may get pushed in that direction when they release more medical gameplay. And I'm not requesting medical gameplay, but if it happens, if it happens. But I feel like it would help a lot, like people trying to do the med kind of gameplay route be a lot easier than having some like coming in and some guy killing you like, hey, I just wanted to do some medevac gameplay because I want it's cool being a space ambulance.
Yeah.
It could like us on like with the whole reputation adding a distribution in it, it could be kind of like branching off in that direction as well. Like that reputation kind of like saying, yeah, that person actually needs help. Like, not gonna go to a mission and it's like, a waste and you're gonna die and you have to go because a lot of like Star Citizen is not a game. It's like, yep, just respawn and I'm back where I was started. It's very like, especially for a new player, if they've not got like, I've got to respawn and my character sits out in space that I could just respawn back in. But if I'm a new player that has to go back down to a planet, catch a train to the spaceport to get their ship, which I understand some people like, I go, oh, that takes too long, but I don't mind. I don't mind the train rides some days. Just not the times where I walk down to where the train stop, like where the doors are like open, and I'm running, and then as soon as I get it, the doors shut. I'm like, God, kidding me? Like I was like so close.
Like 9 out of 10 times you get that.
Oh, it's... I get it half the time, and I know a lot of new players don't remember the time when the Grim Hex elevators used to eat you, and that was that.
I never played Grim Hex during that time, so.
Oh, it was horrible. So pretty much what happened, you would get the main elevator in Grim Hex, and if you try to walk out or walk in, the elevator would just crush you. It would throw you out of the spaceport, like out of the spaceport, and you'd just be flying, and it would just be you have to backspace because it would either eat you and you would die straight away, or you'd just be ejected out into space or be underneath Grim Hex.
I remember the elevators that would be a black wall, and if you entered into the black wall, you would fall through the planet.
Mm.
So like New Babbage,
yeah.
You try and get into the elevator, and now you're in the middle of the planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as well, I think the whole 323, the new EVA will be a very, very good step because right now it's like it's a bit goofy the way the mechanics are for EVA, and I feel like it will bring like I love like space, not even just sci-fi kind of stuff, but even just like astronomy and other stuff, and how that EVA kind of looks a little bit more realistic in a way that people can actually do like kind of spacewalks if you want to go out and go around your ship. And I feel they were teasing it a little bit in one of the ISCs and a Star Citizen Live, saying about how EVA fuel will a little bit come more into play in a way that yes, you'll come back and those EVA suit lockers will be kind of like a place where you can then put your fuel back in, refuel, because the fuel won't last forever. And I think right now you can go because fuel will not have any issues forever. But I think with the whole implementation, some players might get a bit iffy about it, but some players like, hey, this is sick. But I think it's a little bit more on the realism, and I think they want to do realism, but they don't want to make it a chore. They have to put it in a way that's it's both. It's like it's fun, but it doesn't feel like a chore. Just one of the final things I was going to ask you. So with Pyro, I was listening to Solus Beyond the Verse podcast and Space Tomatoes, and they were both kind of they have both of an idea of maybe possibly June, July period after server meshing gets implemented for Pyro to be coming into the verse. What's your kind of ideas of when do you think Pyro yourself is going to come in the verse, and as well, how will that affect your org in a way that you don't have some players being in that kind of criminal route, or you don't have most of your org going, hey, you can do whatever you want, or hey, I want to push you to more of like we're going to be a legal, like a lawfully good org that's going to go help players, or we're going to be a pirate org and that kind of way.
So I don't really have a time for. I know 4.0 is their release statement. 4.0 is Pyro. So 323 is coming next, and then after that'll be 4.0. But they're already testing jump gates, so it's gonna be here soon. And I think like what you were talking about, if you watched the end of year where Jared talked about what's coming in the first half of next year,
Hmm.
um, he was talking about a lot of stuff. And I don't know if he wasn't talking about Pyro specifically, and I know that's the question.
No, yeah.
Um, but there's a first half and then there's a second half of the year. In the first half, he discussed a bunch of stuff, and then the second he said then just wait for the second half. And I think that's like the first half we're working on the core elements like you were talking about, right? The server meshing, we're doing
Hmm.
static
Well,
first. Yep.
PS was the first thing.
Yep.
We knew how that started with 318.
Yep.
It was a pain, but those little things that need to work hand in hand before Pyro gets implemented is a very key thing. A lot of players think, "Oh, I thought Pyro was going to come out way early." I'm like, "No, we needed these other stuff for Pyro to come in and for them to then try and load into a server." And sorry to cut you off, but there's one of the ones that was saying about the playtest that when one player jumped from one jump gate to another, the Saturn server went down in the shard, but
Oh God.
the one in the Pyro system, the player was still playing and he was not having any issues. So the shard was still on and he was the player, but the Stanton was only apparently the first one. The server was down for 2 hours. The most recent one, it was only down for 2 minutes. The player was back in, and I
Yeah,
feel like
that's awesome.
the PES and a lot of other stuff, they have to work hand in hand because it will kind of be like a roadblock for any bugs that try to seep through when Pyro comes out. Like, hey, if one server goes down, that server can then kind of like back it up and be like on the side, like, yeah, you'll be splitting to that one. I feel it has to work hand in hand. A lot of players, I think some of the newer players don't really understand that. I think the older players are like new to kind of development, and we've been waiting this long. Like, I know
Well,
one mate that was backing since 2014, and yeah, he was like, I remember when they first added hangers. That was back in my day.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's a part of the fun. Um, some people think it's not fun, right? When you have bugs, but for me, we're getting to test this stuff in the process of it happening. And to your original question, what do we see as an org? What are we going to do, and how are we going to play? Lawful, unlawful. I think one of the tenets of our org was we started out as a lawful good org when we were in Rally Point, and it was constricting, and we wanted to experience every game loop that was available, and I didn't want to stop anybody from, hey, they want to do this or whatever, right? But with that being said, like we have pirates in our org that enjoy doing pirating, but griefing is not, like, we don't tolerate it, right?
Yeah.
So I think with Pyro and the whole concept of Pyro is it's going to be this unlawful place. It's going to be challenging to get through, but the rewards are going to be greater. And every patch that they release, they have one loop that they want you to test, and they incentivize that test. I guarantee you Pyro, when it releases, it'll be incentivized to go to Pyro. So we are going to venture forth. I think this is the hard part, though, right? As an org leader, and we're kind of, we're in our nascent phase, right? We're starting to grow. We're getting some momentum, but we're still kind of small. And we have players that like playing lawful, and I want that to be supported as well. But it's going to split us. It's going to make it hard. But I don't know. I think our community is really well set up in the fact that even our pirate players, they'll be like, all right, you guys want to run cargo and do this the right way, like, you go run cargo and we'll run security for you, because it's
Exactly.
org members over everything, right? So
I feel like, yeah, in that with the organ stuff, I feel like it'll be the players who are like, yeah, we want to do pirate and illegal stuff, but I think when the other players are like, hey, I need help, can you help me? I think a lot of the other ones, like, they will switch over, but it'll be difficult with the rep and stuff. I understand, because the rep may affect, because some players in the org may have a different rep than the others, so it may be to the point where in your org you might have two different sections for, like, a role for pirate players and a role for other ones. So your community may be divided, but like let's say there's one thing that you, like an event, you can bring them all together. But in most sense, the lawfully good players can help them out in that section in that role, and then the pirate players can then help them out in that other role. But in hand, let's say like they want to do like a ship meet, and we all bring our ships to, let's say, Yellow or Daymar. We can all just land and just see each other and stuff. That can kind of work in hand together, but it's a difficult thing because it's like they want to be lawfully good. They don't want to go to Pyro and be a criminal, and then they come back and they've got all their rep that they worked hard for all these distribution centers and everything. It's difficult in a way. Like I'm a lawfully good player. Like I don't really want to go out and get a crime stat because it's a pain. Because I'm like it's just a pain for me because I like doing I'm like mining, salvaging, and very industrial kind of player. I'm not the one there to go out and kill players, not griefing, but go out and kill players, like go to a, like say a raid on a distribution center for no reason. I'll rather go, I don't mind doing bounty hunting, but I'm not a player to go out and do like pirating and stuff. I will run away from pirates and I'll shoot the pirates, but I won't like be an active pirate. And I understand, like I fully support the pirate game. Look, I know some people don't, but the way that I've had interactions with them, and a lot of the ones, there's a difference between a pirate and a griefer. A pirate will actually demand a ransom for this and this, and if you don't meet that ransom, a griefer will just come past and blow your ship up for no reason whatsoever and then just leave. Or if you try and chase them, before the day, they would just combat log, so they'll just log out the game. And now there's implementations to stop that. The ship will stay there, and the player will stay there, but it's like, it was hard back then, because it's like, oh yeah, they'll just leave, sure, or they'll combat log, and I think as well, pirates found it difficult, because if someone tried to chase them, they would just log out. And then the pirate would be like, "Oh, they're gone." It'd be difficult.
We don't have a lot of. The punishments are not equal currently. I think that's one of the things that I hear a lot from my guys about, especially the lawfully good ones, is that they don't have enough punishments for the pirates doing, and it's too easy. I think so to your comment about liking piracy, I think it adds to the vibrancy of the community. Like you need to have all sorts of different game, and you need to be able to manage and mitigate that, right? Especially as an org leader, for two reasons. One, because now we have both of those sides, like you were talking about with reputation. I'm going to have to figure out how we're going to do that and leverage it within an org.
What do you do to think, hey?
Well, and I think having we'll do that through having like a difference between rank and role, right? So rank is going to be something that you can earn within the organization, and then role is going to be where really, I mean, you're going to have that situational authority, because you're going to be a subject matter expert in it, and maybe we have a rank requirement for it, maybe we don't. But I know some people that are really, really intelligent in their loop and know what they're doing, and like I'm leading an org, but I'm gonna put them up in front of it, right? Like they're the ones that are going to be the ones talking and telling everybody what to do, because they know what they're doing. And so splitting it out like that, I think, is going to be beneficial to us. But yeah, I think piracy is a good thing. I know that's a really controversial statement, maybe, but
no, but it's a good thing for the dynamics, because right now, like as a cargo runner, but I feel a lot safer in the sense, but then if I want to do cargo running, I'm like, crap, there's gonna be pirates everywhere, or there's gonna be it's a lawless system. It's a simple thing. It's a lawless system. Sand is a law system, like a full law system, but there's no punishments, and that's the difficult thing, because players can go do stuff. They go to prison, they just log out for the day, come back in the next day. Yep, the sentence is up, they can leave. But then they can go back and go do the exact same stuff without having an issue about ret. And it's like, oh, I want as a lawless player, like law-abiding player, like what offense do they get? They just get a slap on the wrist and back out they go. There's no actual thing to I want to say deter them from doing that same activity in that location. And I think with that distribution center is that kind of like that roadblock to try and split the two up. Like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. You won't be able to come here if you want to do your criminal activities and stuff at this. You want to have a bad rep, and you want to come back the next day and go, I actually want to be a lawless good player and be a good institution to do cargo missions. Like, no, I don't want you
Yeah.
here. So
Yeah,
it,
100%.
it's a good kind of, to summarize, it's a good way the game is kind of like forming all together, and they're all kind of like branching out, and like they're branching, but they're connected. They're not one. There's not one game loop that's like bringing too much attention towards. They're all kind of getting the equal amount. Like the mining got to rebalance, then they've just got a little bits of tweaks. The salvaging got to like a whole update and stuff. They had so many different ones that everything got a little bit of balancing. And I feel like it's on track right now. I know next week's ISC, Jared teased it's going to be about character customization, so you'll be able to have your beards in game, which I know a lot of players will be happy, and I feel like a lot of other players will be starting to have their female characters or Karen haircuts with a full massive beard. Like I did do that at one point. I got bored and just made my character the most crazy looking. But I feel like it's on track right now, and I feel with this podcast we can give a little bit more coverage to players, not just in American servers but in Australian servers as well, that can relate or they can understand like, hey, I need more information regarding the new IC, or like I wanted a discussion towards the whole, because I know it's a big topic right now, master modes and stuff, and a lot of like the content creators, they're very, I won't say biased, but they sometimes get biased towards one opinion. But myself, I'm happy to discuss both opinions. I'm not
Yeah.
pushing towards one, and I feel like some podcasts, I'm not going to name any, some may be biased towards one, but then some maybe open towards other. And myself, how I learn from how to conduct a podcast, I want to look at both sides of the story. I will take both those ideas, and I have my own opinion, but I'm not going to force that opinion upon all the viewers. I'm not going to say this is the right way to do it, or this is the only way to do it, and all the other ones, or this, like let's say distributed centers are going to be just a hive mind for trolling and all that other stuff. So I feel like this podcast is going to be very open, a way that I'm very open to discussion, and I've already got a couple more guests planned within your org. They've come to me and they said, hey, I want to get involved, and I said, yep, we can sort that out. So
Nice.
and hopefully I can branch out to people from other orgs, because I want to get different various opinions and stuff. And hopefully the future episode, I think the next episode will be a little bit on the new topics coming. I know there's a lot of new news with Stella Fortuna. We'll give a little bit more update on that. And then we might have a guest speaker towards the end of it, like before. But other than that, that was pretty much all the questions I got for you today. Do you have anything more you want to add at all?
No, I think this is awesome that you're doing this, and thank you for having me.
No, you're all good, and yeah, thank you for being on the show. And other than that, yeah, we pretty much got all the Q&A done for today. And other than that, and I'll see you guys in the next episode, hopefully in next fortnight, or whenever I can get the next guy on the show and get it all planned out. But thank you all for listening, and I'll put this podcast up on Spotify. It's hopefully the next one, because at the moment I'm trying to figure out with the YouTube and stuff. I'm not a brand new content creator, but I do know how it all kind of, I've got a YouTube account kind of set up, but I'm trying to work all the other bits, and I'll get all the socials and kind of sorted. But I'll put a link in my Spotify link to Captain's org, and I'm a part of his org, so I can put it in so if someone wants to join the org. And other than that, and I can a little bit of a Q&A at the end of this if you guys want to answer some questions, pretty much what you want to see from this podcast. And other than that, thank you all for listening, and hope you all have a good one.